that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 421st edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell, the amazing Tom Fennell, who is here virtually in the flesh. Tom is home, I am home, and Nolan is recording all this over at BCTV. So we are good to go. Every day I get up too early in the morning. Here, I'm having too much trouble with my computer. I get up early in the morning and I look for news items on energy and climate change, and I assemble somewhere between 10 and 15 of them, usually 15, and post them at my blog, geoharvey.com. And Tom and I take about 3 on average for every day.
The
best of the blog. Thank you, Tom. I needed to say that, but you said it for me, and I wouldn't have forgotten. So thank you very much. And we put them up on this show, which is recorded on Thursdays. Today being the 3rd of June, we will start with news that came up on the 27th of May. We've got some interesting stuff this week. And for people who are interested in reading the news items that we've got, you can go to the blog, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com, or you can go down to wherever it is below this, the video on the screen of your computer to find the links that are provided. One of them goes to a file that you can download. Another one goes to the website that Tom and I used to develop the show. So you're ready to start, I'm sure, Tom. You've got some comments that you might want to make.
Yeah, well, we got a nice picture of some people saying that Exxon knew about climate change.
Yeah, well, Exxon knew about climate change a lot earlier than these guys are saying. They're saying since 1981. Exxon knew about climate change long before that.
I think 1957 can be documented. Matter of fact, I have documented it. I said,
okay.
A copy of that.
Yeah, this is from CNN.
Internal Exxon memo, which is dated something like 1957, and it's all about it.
What do you have for a title for this this article, Tom?
Activist investor ousts at least 2 Exxon directors in a historic win for a pro-climate campaign.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is. Engine number 1. Engine number 1 is the name of a hedge fund that criticized ExxonMobil's climate strategy, and it won enough shareholder support to get 2 board seats in a shareholder vote, ousting at least 2 directors from the oil giant's board. It may gain 2 more seats that were too close to call. There was news on those today, which we can talk about it now, but we may talk about it next week. One of those seats that they were additional seats, they have won. So they've won at least 3 seats on Exxon's board, which has 12 seats altogether.
Well, this is internally happening.
Yeah.
This is not outsiders. These are insiders.
They are now. And by the way, their investment in ExxonMobil is not tiny. This is an investment of, my recollection is that it was $57 million.
Well, engine number 1 is a hedge fund. I guess they got a little bit of bread behind them.
They do. That's correct. And they don't own a huge amount of ExxonMobil's stock. Again, my recollection was that it was 0.02%. But they had points that they could make to other investors, and I'm pretty sure that they got support on this from an organization called Ceres that we've talked about, which is in Boston, and it connects with banks and investors and companies to
How do you spell that name?
CERES. It's
okay. Yep.
like the name of the Greek goddess whose name also came in.
I think she's on top of the Vermont State Capitol.
Is she? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so.
I find it easy to believe. She's the goddess of grain, which is why we call cereal grains cereal.
Yep.
So there. Have you got more on this?
Well, I got a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, unlike BP, Royal Dutch Shell, and other European oil majors, Exxon has doubled down on oil and gas, despite growing concern about the climate crisis.
Yeah.
That's called the ostrich strategy.
Yeah, it's the ostrich strategy. Yeah, they make money, we pay for it. And we pay with more than money. Okay, we've got to move on, unfortunately. We could talk about this one all day. We have a picture here of construction at a Shell cracker plant on the Ohio River, and they are not making crackers.
Well, I had to look that one up, and it's cracker plants separate ethane from natural gas to produce ethylene, a building block for plastics.
Oh, goody.
So it's not good stuff.
No, this particular article comes from CNN. You have a title for it.
Court orders Shell to reduce CO2 emissions in a landmark climate ruling.
Yeah,
this is Holland. This is Dutch.
Yeah, this is, but that was a day. Last Thursday was when these reports came out. It was the day before that. It was just not a good day for the fossil fuels industry in terms of things that were happening in boardrooms and courts. A Dutch court has ruled that Royal Dutch Shell must dramatically reduce its carbon emissions in a landmark climate decision that could have far-reaching consequences for oil companies. By 2030, Shell must reduce its CO2 emissions by 45% from 2019 levels.
Interesting. The ruling includes emissions from its own operations and from the energy products it sells.
Well, by golly, the only way they're going to do that is if they reduce the amount of energy products they sell. I mean, we're having courts tell oil companies, basically, they're going to tell the oil companies that they have to go out of business. I think that's ultimately what's going to happen.
Well, they're going to force them into a corner, that's for sure.
I think so. Okay, our next picture coming up here is
the Bear Mountain Bridge.
Have you? I'm sure you've been across that bridge.
Oh, I used to love Bear Mountain when I was a kid.
I'm sure you would love Bear Mountain today.
I bet I would.
It's been a while since I've been there, but that is a glorious place to drive through, just to drive through.
Well, we used to take the Hudson River Day Line, which was an excursion boat. Doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You pick it up in Manhattan, and it would, for about an hour, you'd cruise the river, and it'd drop you off at Bear Mountain.
Ah.
So you had the whole afternoon at Bear Mountain.
Oh,
and they had a pool, they had picnic tables, they had all sorts of recreation stuff. And this is interesting, they had a zoo.
Yes, I didn't know that.
And it's not a lions and tigers zoo. It was all indigenous species.
Oh, there's no indigenous lions and tigers?
Not the last time I checked.
Well, we've got catamounts, but I guess they don't count as lions. I've seen one, by the way.
I have too, yeah.
Where did you see one?
That wasn't a catamount. That was a bobcat.
I saw a catamount in New Jersey. I was driving late at night, and it jumped out in front of my car. I was afraid I was going to total my car on that cat. And, it was in an area where people were complaining to the police that there was a lion. And about 6 months after I saw it, it was captured it wasn't exactly where I saw it, but it was about a mile or two away.
Some years ago, a state trooper took a photograph of a catamount in Bloom.
Yep. Okay. This is from Clean Technica, and you have a title, I'm sure, for the article.
There's no compromising on science when it comes to protecting water quality. I'm going to say that again.
Please do.
There's no compromising on science when it comes to protecting water quality.
Yeah, anybody who thinks that we should be compromising on science should go drink water out of some randomly chosen river. Before the EPA Administrator Reagan tries to create a compromise between Obama and Trump approaches to the EPA's new rules, which, by the way, he was trying to do, he said, he must remember one thing. Obama's regulations for aquatic preservation were based on science. Trump's were not. So.
Absolutely. I guess we're going to visit that again in this show.
Okay.
I think we are.
Well, do you want to talk more about that, or should we go on?
I think we could go on because basically we got Obama and now Biden doing good things, and we had Trump try to overturn all the good work.
You know, people don't know. There's a lot of people who think that Donald Trump was good for the economy. They don't know. They really don't know. And we've talked about this before. Donald Trump used to point at the fact that the Dow Jones Industrials average went up while he was in the White House. It continued going up after he was out of the White House, and it went up for 7.5 years before he went into the White House. But the Dow Jones Oil and Gas Index dropped by 50% while he was in office. And that was an industry that he was supporting. Yes. And the Dow Jones Coal Index dropped 90% from 45 to 4.33. And then it just disappeared.
I was just going to say, they don't publish it anymore.
No, they don't publish it. They stopped. It posted one last time at exactly noon on the 18th of September, 2019. That was before the pandemic. And it just went out of business. And you know, he declared trade war on China. That sounded really secure because the United States was Europe's biggest trading partner. When Donald Trump left office, China was Europe's biggest trading partner. I think people should take a good look at what's going on here because the environmental damage that he did was just part of the indication of the fact that he was making America mud again. So
well, let's take a look at the Colorado River here.
Yeah, sorry if I'm getting too political for you, but I don't think Donald Trump is political, to tell you the truth, because he's a Republican in name only. And
Donald Trump was after one thing.
Yes. Yes. Okay, let's get off Donald Trump. I apologize. We have a picture of Lake Mead, an article from CNN, and you have a title for that article, don't you, Tom?
Well, we got a bathtub ring on.
We do indeed. And
Lake Mead.
Yeah.
I've been to that exact spot, but the bathtub ring wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, it probably looked like there was a lot more water there, too. What do you have for title?
Well, that's what I mean. It was full.
Yeah.
Well, the first ever Colorado River water shortage is now almost certain.
You know, this is amazing to me because that kind of picture was being taken years ago, and it's got worse.
It was like that for a while, then it'd fill up again.
Yeah.
But they're looking at the sources that would happen to fill it up, and they don't exist.
Yeah, unlike they did the last time.
Exactly.
Lake Mead is at 37% capacity, a level it has hit very few times. In the past, it recovered quickly, but the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation forecasts the lake levels will continue to decline without any sign of recovery through at least the end of 2022. So they're saying things are only going to get worse. And
Lake Mead is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
It's the largest reservoir in the United States.
Yes.
That's formed, of course, by the Hoover Dam that you see there, which is on the Colorado River.
Yes.
And it feeds, by the way, from there, feeds the city of Las Vegas.
Yes.
So it's right on the border between Nevada and Arizona.
Yep. Okay, Tom, we should probably go on. We've got a picture of Jenny Uberberg, who looks as pleased as she could possibly be. What do you have for a title? This is from Clean Technica.
Electric vehicle tax credit bill from the U.S. Senate Finance Committee looks great.
Isn't that amazing?
And this article talks a lot about that bill. So,
oh boy, does it ever! And the news in this bill is just amazing. Let's look at how a bill has moved through the U.S. Senate Finance Committee. It extends the tax credit, which, of course, in the past had to be extended every couple of years. It extends it not for a couple of years, but until 50% of vehicles are electric. Whoa! It opens the tax credit up so people who owe little or no money can benefit. In the past, you had to owe $7,500 at least in taxes to be able to get the $7,500 credit. You couldn't get more credit than you owed. Now they're talking about having you able to buy an electric vehicle, even if you don't have a big income, so and get credits for it.
In the right direction.
Yeah, and on top of that, if the car is made in the United States, you get an extra $2,500 credit. And if it's made by union labor, you get an extra $2,500. You can get $12,500 a year off if you're not making any money at all and not paying income tax.
Yeah.
So, if you're retired, living on, the fruits of your past labor, you can make it.
Well, the article has a summary of the current tax credit bill.
Yeah.
And there's a screenshot of the bill text if you're really that interested.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think our readers, some of our viewers rather, will be interested, but we do have to pass to our next obligation here.
Well, I just wanted to say a quick takeaway. Tesla and GM vehicles don't qualify because they've already made too many of them.
Although in the new bill, they will qualify again.
Well,
I believe, yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's move on, Tom.
Yeah, we got an interesting picture here. What are these things?
I don't know. Do you know? Maybe Mary Ray, the person who took the picture, knows. Oh, the thing says they're wind turbines. It says right on the caption. This is from Yahoo Finance. What do you got there?
Germany and Norway flipped the switch on a $2.4 billion undersea energy link.
I remember when we reported that they were going to build this link back, it was years ago.
Basically, it's connecting the two grids.
Yeah, it's connecting two grids, and Norway's grid is almost 100% renewable. So this allows a lot of electricity to go back and forth. Okay, let me read the synopsis. Germany and Norway inaugurated the €2 billion, which is $2.4 billion, NordLink project, connecting the power grids of the two countries. The cable, which is 623 kilometers long, that's 387 miles, runs under the North Sea. It can carry enough electricity to supply 3.6 million households. I wonder if there's...
Well, Germany sometimes has excess electricity from the wind farm.
Yeah.
And Norway has a lot of capacity.
Yeah.
They can store energy in hydropower, and they got a lot of them.
Yeah. If Germany has too much electricity in its wind farms, which, by the way, are all in the north, so they're all fairly close to Norway in global terms, they can ask the Norwegians to stop using their hydropower for a while and use the wind power instead. And, there you go. It's to the benefit of all, as they say.
This is a win-win, I think.
I think it is, yeah. And of course, it's a $2.4 billion investment. But, if you consider the cost of for example, a nuclear power plant that would put that much electricity out, you're talking about a lot more than that. And this thing is going to provide both countries with a certain level of flexibility in addition to backup. So
it's going to be beneficial to both countries.
Yeah. You want to go on?
Yeah, let's move on here. We got a picture of a store energy flow battery.
Yep. And this was exciting to me. The only thing that I don't like about it is it looks like they're copying Tesla's ads. But nevertheless, this is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title, Tom?
Flow batteries. Keep the energy flowing.
Yeah. Incubated in New York, that is New York State, by a Stony Brook University program, Store N Technologies aims to build on the strengths of vanadium flow batteries to meet needs for residential and industrial energy storage. store-end tech batteries will fill a market demand for more efficient and cost-effective energy storage. Now, we've talked a lot about vanadium flow batteries, in fact, flow batteries in general, and they have a bunch of advantages, not the least of which is they don't use any lithium. But
that's a big advantage, really.
It is, but there's other advantages here. If you want to double the capacity of your battery in terms of energy capacity, all you have to do is double the size of your tanks.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So this is
flow batteries use a rechargeable electrolyte which never wears out.
Yes, that's another big one.
To the left side, and then you move it back again.
Yes, that's right. This is a huge advantage. Unfortunately, flow batteries are not really suitable for putting into most vehicles. I think they might work in trains, but
they're not going to work in cars.
They're not going to, and they're definitely not going to work in airplanes. But they will work in homes, and I've been sitting around for years. I mean, literally about 6 years. I've been sitting around wondering when somebody was going to introduce a flow battery for household use, and now we're seeing it happen.
Well, the usefulness or the capacity of the flow battery is limited only by the amount of liquid that you flow.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it could be a lake.
Yeah, it could be a lake, in which case you could probably store enough electricity in that lake to keep yourself going for years. Although I wouldn't want a duck to land in the lake. Okay, our next item is about Rivian, and this is mind-boggling what Rivian is doing. We've got another article after this one, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, Rivian has been keeping a low profile, but that last week we saw a pickup truck with a trunk.
Yes, that's right. That was a Ford.
This one has to have a trunk too.
Yeah.
I think, a pickup truck with a trunk is a big boon. I mean,
yeah.
Like, you can keep your golf clubs locked up instead of letting them get out in the back where someone can steal them.
Yeah. Okay. This is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title, Tom?
Rivian deliveries are to begin in July. Test drives in August, and equipment upgrades and changes. Well, the test drives mean they come to you.
Okay. Rivian announced that it is all set for deliveries to begin in July, and that all launch edition pre-orders will be in customers' driveways by next summer. Now, I want to point out that at this point, next summer is 3 weeks away. So this means
you can buy a car and expect to drive it before the end of the year.
I think actually they mean a year from this summer.
Do they?
Yeah, they've got a lot of back orders. It's going to take them a year to get them all. So as I think about this, I think it's going to be when they say next summer, summer of 2022. It also had news about standard equipment and upgrades that changed to benefit customers. This is a lot.
I got a list of 3 things that are upgrades.
Well, tell us about them, Tom.
Well, they got an off-road upgrade for one.
Okay.
An onboard air compressor is standard. Now, what do I need that for?
Tires.
Blow up beach balls.
Both.
You can now add a cargo crossbars and a rooftop tent to fit on the bars.
A rooftop tent.
Yeah.
That's so you could
use it as a camper.
You could use it as a camp. A rooftop tent sounds like something that you'd use to make yourself secure against bears or something. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Okay, we should go on.
You're roughly a wall charger.
Yeah. Okay, we should go on. And our next picture there is the Flatiron Building. I'll bet you've been there too, Tom, haven't you?
I haven't been to it. I've seen it. It's a landmark.
Boy, is it ever.
That was the first real skyscraper in New York City back in like the 1800s.
Yeah, and you don't even notice it today except for its shape. That's a beautiful building, though. I've never been in it either, but I've been by it a bunch of times. This is from S&P Global.
Well, for one thing, it's not down by Wall Street. It's halfway uptown. It's up on 23rd Street.
And that's Broadway going across there.
That's Broadway going across there, and that's 23rd Street going straight south.
23rd Street? No, 23rd Street would go east and west. What's the one going north and south? I forget what it is. I don't remember what avenue it is. 23rd Street, it goes across.
Oh, okay. No, you're right. That's 6th Avenue.
6th Avenue. So it's on the corner of 6th and Broadway.
You're on 23rd Street looking at this picture.
Yeah. Okay. What do you have for a title for this article?
New York City lawmakers aim to block natural gas usage in new buildings and major renovations.
Yeah, lawmakers in New York City introduced legislation that would essentially prohibit use of fossil fuels in new buildings and major renovations, marking a new step in the most populous U.S. city in its efforts to decarbonize its building stock.
So this is not yet a law.
It's not yet a law, but it sooner or later it's going to happen. It's going to happen. If it doesn't happen this go around, it'll happen on the next.
Well, not only in New York, people all over the country are putting together laws like this.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay, you have more on that?
No, we got a nice map coming up.
We're up to Sunday, May 30th, and a map.
States advancing or prohibiting building gas bans and electrification codes.
I don't see that.
What do you got? A picture of a car?
I have a picture of a car.
No. Well, I don't know where this one came from. It's a picture of the United States with red states, blue states, and gray states.
I don't see it.
And the states, well, basically, it just says that the red states say you can't ban gas and the blue states say you can.
Oh, that was from that article, Tom. That was from the article about New York.
Oh, was it? So
yeah.
I picked it up and thought it was a legitimate article.
Oh, it's legitimate enough. We've already talked about it, though. Okay, we've got an article here from Clean Technica, and we have a sketch of a Fisker.
That's a car.
It's a car.
And it's signed by the Pope.
It's signed by the Pope.
So Fisker is going to build an Ocean Pope-mobile. Ocean, by the way, is the name of the Fisker car.
Yeah, it's the name of the it's the name of the model. And what this says for the synopsis is Pope Francis will probably beat every head of state. Beat every head. Pope Francis will probably beat every head of state to an all-electric jalopy to move him about in his official functions in St. Peter's. He's getting the Fisker edition of the Pope Mobile, a modified Fisker Ocean, and which will have all of its carpets made out of recycled plastic bottles that were fetched out of the ocean.
Well, this Fisker Ocean itself is a nice car.
Yeah.
It's an SUV, but it's a sort of a convertible because you can take the top off.
Which is one of the reasons he might want this for his Pope Mobile.
Well, they're going to give him a Pope Mobile with an all-glass cupola.
Yeah, well, that's what you have.
So they're going to take the top off and give him this all-glass.
Absolutely. The Pope deserves a cupola.
Absolutely. Well, he's going to cruise around and bless people and all of that.
Absolutely. A Pope really does deserve a cupola. Cars with cupolas should only go to popes. Okay, I'm having fun with this one. Our next article is from Forbes. Should we go to that?
Yeah, we might as well.
This is actually a pretty exciting article.
Well, it's a picture of a whole bunch of batteries.
Yep.
And if you look at the one that's copper-shaped, that is really like a roll of dimes. It's a roll of batteries.
Yeah.
Batteries are about the size of a dime.
Yeah.
And that one that's copper-shaped is just the right size to fit in a cell phone. But
okay.
They can arrange all of these things so that they fit in a car.
This company can make batteries any size or shape that it wants eventually.
Bingo.
What do you have for a title?
Developer of an aluminum ion battery claims it charges 60 times faster than a lithium ion. This is a biggie.
This is very big. The company here is called Graphene Manufacturing Group, It's based in Brisbane, Australia, and it claims that a graphene aluminum-ion battery cell can charge up to 60 times as fast as the best lithium-ion cells and hold 3 times as much energy as the best aluminum-based cells. Now, there's lithium-ion batteries and there's other batteries. There's sodium-ion batteries and here aluminum-ion batteries. I hadn't really considered aluminum-ion batteries before I read this article, but the thing is,
they're developing some new technology.
Yeah, they're developing new technology. Aluminum weighs about 4 times as much. I'm talking about the atomic weight here, about 4 times as much as lithium, but it's got 3 electrons instead of 1. So the cost of going to lithium in terms of weight is very small. And graphene, do you know anything about graphene, Tom?
Not much.
Graphene is absolutely amazing stuff. I mean, this is stuff that we never knew about when we were in school because nobody knew about it. It's
a form of graphite, but beyond that, I don't know.
Well, it's not actually graphite. Graphite is it's like graphite. Let me put it that way. If you could take graphite, the way that it's built, it's almost like you have pieces of carbon paper. It's like paper that was made out of carbon, and you stack them up and they stick together, and that's graphite. Well, if you can take a single sheet of that, 1 atom thick, that's graphene. Nobody knew how to make graphene until just a few years ago. In fact, they didn't even know that this existed, but they do now. And graphene has got characteristics that are just astonishing. And in this case, one of the characteristics of graphene is that you can make it in such a way that it has little teeny holes in it, and the holes are just the right size to hold aluminum atoms.
Basically, that's what this article is about.
Absolutely. And now think about this for a second. They figured out how to put little aluminum atoms into little sheets, 1 atom thick of graphene, and they make lots and lots and lots of sheets with lots and lots and lots of atoms, and they stack them up lots and lots and lots of times, and then that gives them a battery. And if they have lots and lots and lots of batteries, you can actually drive a car on it.
Absolutely. This has the potential for being a biggie.
But it starts out being so small.
Well, there's a little sideline here. The batteries are safer because they don't have an upper ampere limit that cause spontaneous overheating or fires.
They don't have. I think based on what I read in the article, they barely heat up at all if they do at all.
I think you're right.
Certainly the article says they don't have a heat problem. But they don't.
They're going to last 3 times longer than lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah, and on top of everything else, what's going into this? Well, I'll tell you, carbon and aluminum. So you're talking about stuff that basically is very, very cheap, and stuff that basically we throw away every time we throw away a soda can.
Well, lithium's getting harder and harder to get, and therefore more and more expensive.
It is, and
going the other way with aluminum is a win-win situation.
Absolutely, I think you don't have enough wins in that. It might be win-win-win, or maybe 4 or 5. Okay,
4 or 5, huh?
Yeah, we should go on to our next item.
Yeah, we should.
This is from Clean Technica. It's about banks.
Well, we got a picture of a company called Hybrid.
Yeah.
They make fossil-free steel.
Yeah.
This is important.
Yes, it is. What do you have for a title?
6 global banks come together to decarbonize steel.
Yeah, 6 of the top lenders to the steel sector. These are Citi, Goldman Sachs, ING, Societe Generale, Standard Chartered, and UniCredit have come together to define common standards of active action for the steel sector decarbonization. Boy, this is hard to say. Through a collective climate-aligned finance agreement. Somebody likes long words, Tom.
Well, steel uses a lot of carbon.
It sure does.
A lot more than it even has to. But,
yes.
But part of the carbon goes into the steel.
Part of it does.
So commercially viable technologies involving hydrogen are available to produce low-carbon steel, and that's what this article is all about.
And that picture we've got in front of us is a picture of a storage tank that's made out of low-carbon steel that was made without fossil energy.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think it's time for us actually to go to the next article.
Which is Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday.
Monday already.
Monday. That was the mamas and the papas.
We got a nice picture of the International Space Station there.
We do indeed. And this is from SciTech Daily. What do you have for title?
Using the International Space Station to study Earth's climate and keep our planet safe. This is an interesting article.
It is. On Earth, we look toward the sky longingly to know what resides in the rest of the universe. Meanwhile, 250 miles above us, the International Space Station is looking back. This sounds actually threatening, doesn't it? Helping to provide unique insights to keep our planet safe.
Well, there's a nice quote from this article.
Yeah?
Climate change presents humankind's greatest environmental challenge. Monitoring the energy flows into, within, and out of the system underpins our ability to understand how the climate system works.
Yes, and
that is changing and identify those mechanisms responsible for climate change.
Right.
That's what this article's about.
It is. It reminds me a little bit of something a nurse told me once. She said, you have to test. If you have diabetes, you have to do your blood test every day. And she said about this, if you don't measure it, you can't control it. And that's what these people are doing. They're measuring what's going on Earth so they can know what to do, what's going wrong, and what to do about it. So there you have it. Do you have more on that, Tom?
I don't really. Let's move on. We got a very nice, interesting picture of Cochem, Germany.
I don't remember where Cochem is, but I can tell you, when I was in Germany in 1962, I traveled along the Rhine. I don't think this is even on the Rhine, but I traveled on the Rhine on a side paddle steamboat.
Really?
I did indeed. They have one of them still left, and it might be the one that I was traveling on. They didn't have many in those days. It was fun. Being on that boat, it was like being on the Staten Island ferry, except there's castles going by, and it was just an interesting boat to begin with. But I saw a lot of countryside that looked a lot like this, and
that is the Imperial Castle up there on the hill.
Yeah.
It's a museum now.
This is from Green Car Congress. What do you have for title?
Germany plans to invest $10 billion in large-scale hydrogen projects.
Yeah, this is
significant.
This is really interesting. Germany's Federal Ministry of Economics and the Federal Ministry of Transport selected 62 large-scale hydrogen projects. That is 62 projects, which are to be state-funded as part of a joint European hydrogen project. The funding, which is 8 billion euros, and as Tom said, $10 billion roughly, is made up of federal and state funds. So what they're doing is they're putting all this money into projects that will take renewable energy when it's available and use it to manufacture hydrogen that can be used as a fuel. And the amount of money that is going into hydrogen worldwide is just phenomenal.
Well, one of the biggest problems is transport is currently more than 95% dependent on fossil fuels.
Yeah.
You put gasoline in your car.
Yeah, that's right. And every time you
need mobility that relies on renewables.
Yep. And every time you burn a gallon of gasoline in your car, you're releasing something over 20 pounds of carbon dioxide into the air.
So we can't keep up burning carbon.
We have to get rid of all of our gasoline powered cars, all of our diesel powered cars and trains, all of our planes that are running, everything that's running on fossil fuels, and almost 100% of our transportation that's bigger than bicycles and horse buggies is powered by fossil fuels.
Well, hydrogen technology is the way out of this.
It is a way out. I will.
A way out.
It is a way out, and
Well,
I don't.
it's a growing business. I mean, everybody's starting to look at hydrogen technology now.
Absolutely, they're looking at hydrogen as a fuel that they can use instead of natural gas for things like cooking. And they're looking, I've read articles that say it's not really all that good for cars. And quite honestly, I don't think it's all that good for cars.
I agree with you.
But, I've read articles about saying we can run airplanes on this, and it's a great fuel for airplanes because it's so light.
It's lighter, I was just going to say. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see how we're doing in terms of time here. Whoops. I just lost it. I lost my place. This is what happens when you work with computers. They are up against you.
They do things that you don't want them to do.
That's right. Oh, here we go. Our next item has a picture of San Francisco.
Yes, it does.
And
San Francisco, there's a lot of houses like that in San Francisco.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Those houses are what are termed painted ladies.
Okay.
And of course, obviously, the reason is because they have these crazy color schemes that almost always involve at least 3 different colors on the house. But the thing I found interesting was I looked at this picture and I thought, wait a minute, I've known about those houses, but they look like they are Victorian. And I thought San Francisco was basically wiped out by the earthquake in 1906? And these are, if they're Victorian houses, they predate that. Well, most of these houses do predate the earthquake because they survived.
Is that so?
Yeah. Anyway, this article comes from Clean Technica, and it really doesn't have much to do with painted ladies or the earthquake in San Francisco.
Well, rental efficiency standards, a win for equity and climate.
Yeah, rental buildings use on average 20% more energy per square foot than owner-occupied homes. Now, I want to repeat that because people should understand this. Rental buildings use on average 20% more energy per square foot than the buildings the owners live in.
Well, they explain why in the next sentence.
Yeah, that's right. Landlords have little incentive to improve home efficiency when they don't pay the power bills, the energy bills. And the tenants have little incentive to invest in the homes because they're, how long are they going to be tenants? So how do you address this problem? Well, this article is about how you address the problem.
Well, particularly this article is about how Burlington, Vermont has addressed the problem.
Yes, that's a very important issue, which I should have brought up, and Tom brought up for me. Yes, this is about, that Burlington is kind of the example of a town that is addressing the problem. So,
well, they're setting minimum energy efficiency standards for residential rental properties.
Right.
They're making the landlords and the tenants look at the problem.
Yeah, that's right. And that is important. Now, our next item, look at that picture.
I'm looking at it.
This really looks like the way to go, doesn't it? If you're going to travel by air, do it in one of these things.
It looks like you're traveling in comfort.
It does, doesn't it?
And by the way, you gotta explain what that is. That's hanging underneath a blimp.
That's right. You're inside the gondola of a blimp. And this article is from Clean Technica, and you, Tom, have a title for it.
Blimps may be the key to low-carbon, short-range air travel.
Yeah, according to The Guardian, hybrid air vehicles based in UK, the Hybrid Air Vehicles is the name of a company.
Name of the company, right.
Wants to change air travel by ferrying people between cities that are up to 300 miles apart. By the way, the distance from Brattleboro, Vermont to Philadelphia is just about 300 miles.
Okay.
With its Airlander 10 blimps. Here are a few reasons a blimp might be a serious alternative to traveling by jet. So what do you have to say about this, Tom? I know you've got notes.
First of all, I want to mention that there's a difference between a blimp and a dirigible.
Yes.
And the dirigible was what the Hindenburg that caught on fire. It was such a tragedy about back in 1910 or something like that.
No, it was the 1920s. They had talkie movies by that time.
And the
1930.
dirigible was a larger vessel, and it had a framework. Blimp is just a big gas bag.
It's just a big bag. Yeah, with engine.
When I was a kid, I'd be eating breakfast, waiting to go to school. Every day, a blimp passed by overhead.
Was it a Navy blimp?
I don't know. It wasn't identified. It was just a blimp, but we used to look forward to the blimp.
When I was a kid, we had it wasn't actually a blimp. It was shaped like a blimp. It was a tethered balloon. They were doing tests on sound systems, and every day somebody reciting "Mary Had a Little Lamb," and so forth. And what they were doing was they were testing the sound system. But I'll tell you, I did see a blimp when I was living south of Boston on the shore. Somebody had a blimp that was a private blimp.
Private blimp. Huh?
It was a private blimp. It's just kind of mind-boggling that anybody would have such a thing. And a person was, flying around, and this was multicolored. It was really kind of amazing. Okay, blimps.
Well, blimps can take off and land
in short distances.
Any flat piece of land.
Yeah.
And that's a plus.
That's a big plus. They also use somewhere between 10 and 20% of the fuel that an airplane would.
Absolutely.
That's a big plus.
Well, it says the carbon footprint per passenger is less than a tenth.
Yeah.
Of a typical journey by jet.
Yeah, and on top of everything else, these things are fairly easy to deal with when they're operated entirely electrically, because they've got the lift that they've got without having to depend on speed. So There you go.
Well, passengers can travel in much greater comfort than is possible.
Well, I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's true.
That's what the picture is.
A blimp of, like this could actually land in Brattleboro, not inside the town, I don't think, but nearby. And I don't think they will have blimp service from Brattleboro, but it is the kind of thing that could be done. Maybe we'll have the equivalent of bus travel using these things.
There's probably not enough people in Brattleboro that are traveling in such a way that they would require a blimp.
Well, the other thing, of course, is that we've got Amtrak running through.
Well,
okay.
We don't right now.
We don't?
No, Amtrak has stopped during the
oh, yes, I forgot about that. Oh, my goodness. Well, hopefully it'll come back together again soon. Okay, our next item is from the BBC, and we have a picture of a Tesla. I think that's a Tesla. This is a little weird. The file that I took this from, which is on Unsplash, said that that's a Porsche, and I don't believe for a minute that's a Porsche. I think that's a Tesla. And
well, the title I got says Tesla Model Y with a question mark.
Yeah, that was something I put in.
Ah,
it originally said it was a Porsche, and I just put EV because it does not look like a Porsche, and I can't see the emblem on that car clearly enough to know that it's a Tesla, but it looks like a Tesla Model Y. What do you have for title, Tom?
Why electric cars will take over sooner than you think.
Yep, we are in the middle of the biggest revolution in motoring since Henry Ford's first production line started turning over back in 1913.
That's true, but we don't think about it.
No, we don't. Many industry observers believe we've already passed the tipping point where sales of EVs will very rapidly overwhelm petrol and diesel cars. And by the way, what I'm seeing when I go to the news and look at these things is that the percentage of sales that are EVs in European countries are going up by 200 to 300% from last year.
Well, the article says that the revolution will be electric.
Yeah, it sure will. Yep.
And they look at this from the standpoint of comparing it with the internet back around the early 1990s.
I think that's correct.
I think so too.
Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica. That's a canal in California, and
it tells us it's pretty nice.
It is. I don't believe for a minute that's going to be covered with solar panels, but this article is about. I
don't think so.
No, it's too much in a residential area. But what do you have for title for this?
Well, it says solar panel installations over canals could save California 65 billion gallons of water per year.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to be over canals like this.
No.
There are plenty more canals in California that they could be under.
Oh, the bulk of the canals in California are out in the countryside.
Well, they're utilitarian. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Take, for example, the Imperial Valley.
Yeah.
Because of 1,000 years of the Colorado River dumping its effluent there, the soil is very, very rich.
Yes.
But there's no water.
Yes.
So they got canals that are running for the Colorado River into the Imperial Valley, which is why we have lettuce in the wintertime.
Yes, and in order to have that lettuce in the wintertime, Lake Mead is going to have to do better than it has done. Okay, let me read the synopsis for this. Yale Climate Connections has shared how installing solar panels over California's 4,000 miles of open canals could save 65 billion gallons of water each year. Solar panels over canals not only generate clean energy, but also reduce evaporation. And
absolutely,
I have turned this mentally into a big project, because one of the things that I found out is San Francisco, the city, is dumping 80 million gallons of water that has been treated in its treatment plants or come off of its sewers. It's dumping 80 million gallons a day into the bay and the ocean.
That's not cool.
And just think about what would happen if that 80 million gallons were transported to the interior of California, where they need water. It could be used for irrigation. At least I think.
Today, I wasn't paying a lot of attention, but some lake in California has just dried up.
Things are not good when it comes to water out west. Okay, we do have to go on, Tom, I'm sorry to say.
Well, a quick takeaway from the article, the main challenge of building solar farms is finding the right place to do it.
Yeah, and building them over canals makes a lot of sense. Okay, we have a picture of what is that, an elk, a caribou? I don't know, in Alaska, and we have an article from CNN.
Biden and his administration to suspend oil and gas drilling leases in the Arctic refuge, undoing a Trump-era decision. I think we've talked about this in the past.
We have. Biden administration plans to suspend oil and gas leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, according to a senior administration official. This will undo a move by the Trump administration that the Trump administration made last year. The problem that we've got here is that the Trump administration's decision to do this was apparently really badly legally flawed. They had a bunch of things that they had to do before they made up their minds to open this area up for leases, and they didn't do them.
That's interesting.
And on top of everything else,
Trump's environmental policies tended to favor business interests. We know that.
Yes, some selected business interests, not others.
That's true, yeah.
And what happened here was they didn't even make money on this compared to what they expected to, because nobody was interested. I shouldn't say that. Very few organizations were interested. Okay. You have more on that? Should we go on?
Yeah, let's go on.
Okay. That is
picture here.
Just interesting. I love looking at these vessels. They are so interesting. You know, just think about this. The bridge of that vessel is like 6 stories above the deck.
Well, it's like a hotel mounted on stilts.
Absolutely. And just think about how tall those masts are. And, you know, flying.
They've got to be longer than the blades.
Yeah. They do. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a kind of a thing that's elevated above.
It's a platform, that yellow thing?
No, I wasn't thinking of the platform, but above the bow of the ship is a platform that has a helicopter on the top of it.
Yes, we've seen that. I saw that, right.
These are just fascinating ships. What do you have for this? This is from Offshore Mag. What do you have for title?
Ørsted and Eversource charter Dominion wind turbine installation vessel.
I thought this was so interesting. This vessel is being built for Dominion Energy.
Specifically.
This is, I mean, we have a total of 5 offshore wind turbines in the United States. And Dominion Energy is building, has ordered.
We're going to have more than 5.
We have 5 so far.
Yeah, they're going to build a lot of them.
They're going to put a lot of them in. Okay, Ørsted and Eversource have contracted Dominion Energy's wind turbine installation vessel Charybdis for construction of 2 offshore wind farms in the Northeast. Charybdis is expected to deploy from New London, Connecticut in 2023. So this vessel's going to be there in a couple of years.
Absolutely.
Dominion Energy has ordered the vessel, and it's already got contracts for it from Ørsted and Eversource. You know, the wheels of business turn. And I think our last item is coming up, Tom, and this is interesting. Really, really interesting. You ready for this?
Well, this is Rivian again.
Yeah, this is Rivian again. And this is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title?
Rivian IPO could reach a $70 billion valuation. You're going to have to tell us what an IPO is.
Well, it's an initial public offering. Let me read the, you okay, Tom?
Yeah, I'm just dying here from a cough.
Okay. Well, I hope you come back again.
It's not a cough. I swallowed wrong.
Okay. Rivian will be working with Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase and Company, Goldman Sachs Group on their IPO, according to Bloomberg. Inside sources say that Rivian could seek an evaluation of about $70 billion when it goes public. Well, there's a bunch to talk about here. First of all, an IPO is the initial public offering of stock. And this is how the company gets money to invest in its factories and so forth.
So they're basically saying you can buy X amount of stock for so much money.
That's right. And the stock goes up, goes onto the market, and people bid for it. And, you know, usually huge blocks of stock are bought up by hedge funds and mutual funds and other companies, big guys, but little guys can get a certain amount here too. But it means that stock is going to be available in the future on the stock market. Now, the thing that I find fascinating about this was I said to myself, a market if they got $70 billion, which is what they're talking about getting, that would mean that their market value would be $70 billion. And if they had a $70 billion market value, what would that be compared to, say, GM? It would be bigger than GM. Yeah. Rivian is looking to have a market value bigger than General Motors. And this is, how many people have ever heard of Rivian?
Well, not too many people have, but I think a lot of people will be because they're making good vehicles.
They make, yeah. And, you know, if people who've been watching this show and going to certain places online and things like that know about Rivian, some of them. I mean, you could watch the show and ignore anything that we bring up about Rivian, but believe me, the world is changing. And here we've got the proof of it. So there you go, Tom.
Well, the times they are a-changing.
I think you've said that before. Do you want to say it again? Okay. We have one last slide, which is our advice to people, our hope for people. Have a simply grand week. How you can be simply grand, I don't know. But what do you think, Tom?
I'll settle for grand.
Okay. It's hard to imagine simple and grand going on at the same time, but there it is.
Oh, we had some pretty good stuff this week, though.
We did indeed, and
more
we
good
wish
news than bad news.
Yeah, we wish Rivian all the best of luck getting as much money as they can get. So everybody, Tom and I are both waving. I guarantee I am waving, and I'm sure that
Absolutely.
Tom is. And we hope that
traditionally do it this time.
Yes, that's right. And we hope you come back next week. And we also hope that you have enjoyed this show as much as we enjoyed making it.
Don't applaud. Send money.
Well, if you're going to send money, make out the check to BCTV because, they're the ones who will put it to better use. They'll have all kinds of people employed, supported, and so forth. So see you next time. Bye.